On part 2 of a 2-part episode, we chat with linguist Stu Ja Raj about dirty words and tones in the Thai language.
So if you stumbled into one of the many pitfalls of the Thai language and said something inappropriate or even dirty, you'll love this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who, despite coming here in 2001, has never taken a single Thai cooking course.
Neither have I. I've always wanted to, but never done it.
Yeah, I have not wanted to. I'm not interested in cooking my own food, let alone someone else's food that I could screw up.
And I made Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a 1-year teaching contract almost 22 years ago. Fell in love with peeling off ingredients labels that are written in Thai so I can get to the English underneath. So I never left.
If they would only use proper ingredients labels that would come off instead of rip, and then you're stuck like fingernailing the thing.
I'm that guy. No, I mean, listeners, in case you don't realize this, there is a Thai law that says ingredients labels must be in Thai. So what happens is all these imported products, they put stickers over the English ingredients so you can't read the English. And so I spend half my time in the supermarkets like surreptitiously peeling back the label so I can see the English underneath.
I found a good workaround though. I just don't care what I put in my body. So.
Okay, that is a workaround. That would work.
Yeah.
All right, I want to say a quick thank you to one of our patrons, Ray, who supports us at the show shoutout level. Stick around after part 2 of our interview with Stu Ja Raj to hear why Ray has been added to our list of Bangkok food muses. We want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get our ad-free regular show a day early, behind-the-scenes photos of our interviews, a heads up to send questions to upcoming guests, and access to our Discord server to chat with me, Greg, and other listeners around the world. But best of all, patrons like Ray also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. On this week's bonus show, we chatted about khao soi being named the best soup in the world and what that means for Thailand's growing soft power, a new plan to boost the tourism industry by allowing bars to stay open until 4 a.m., and my first week of teaching live in-person classes after over 2 years of teaching only online. To learn how to become a patron, click the support button at the top of our website.
Man, 2 years behind the computer. That's a long time.
No doubt.
All right. And as always, if you have a comment, a show idea, or you just want to say hi, head to bangkokpodcast.com and click the little microphone button on the bottom right to leave us a voicemail that we will play on our show. And before we get started, a quick announcement. We have decided on a date for our next Bangkok Podcast meetup. It's going to be held on Saturday, September 10th. The only thing we haven't decided on is a place. So Ed and I are going to put our heads together and come up with a place. It might be one of the places we've had it before. It might be a new place. We're not sure yet. But if you're in town, mark it off. Saturday, September 10th. We'd love to see you in the evening.
That's right.
For some drinky poos and some socializing and who knows what else.
If you're in country, you got to be there. And if you're out of the country right now, you got to start planning your trip. You got to be here in 3 weeks.
That's right.
So. Yeah. So get your butt to Thailand and make it to our next meetup.
Yeah, we'll announce it on next week's show. We'll have it and we'll figure it out and we'll put it on our Facebook page as well. So yeah, we hope to see you there. All right, this episode is part 2 of our interview with linguist, polyglot, and rapscallion Stu Ja Raj, who at last count speaks like 12 languages and has all of his hair. I mean, if there was ever a reason not to like the guy, that's that. But
damn him.
He's just so friendly, it's hard not to like him. So we thought he'd be a great guest to have on the show to discuss some of the bad words, naughty language, and linguistic faux pas that you make if you don't understand how tones work in the Thai language. And boy, did he prove us right. After last week's show, we're going even further to talk about the trouble you can get in trying to force the Thai language into an English-shaped hole, the intricacies of describing different types of poop, using wordplay to classify bodily functions, and the different levels of shock factor that you'll get with different kinds of swear words. Now, the same warning applies from part 1. If you're a foreigner with a medium to low level of Thai language ability, some parts of the show will probably range from incomprehensible to mildly amusing, But if you have a high level of Thai fluency and or are a Thai person, some parts of the show will probably be pretty distasteful and, dare I say it, even obscene.
Uh-oh.
So here is part 2 of a very interesting conversation I had with our buddy Stu Ja Raj.
Yeah. Another big thing that happens. Can I ask you, supposing you jumped on the back of a motorcycle or in a taxi, and you wanted to say, go to soy 11 and then soy 18. How would you say soy 11?
ไปซอย11แล้วก็ไปซอย18
That's not bad. That's pretty good. But this is one thing that drives a lot of foreigners crazy, is 11 versus 18.
Right.
So,
I think Ed and I have discussed this previously. It's I can see how it'd be confusing.
So you have 11, 11. You can hear, in Thai, the throat closes, sip, sip. You can hear it cut off. So it's this glottal R cutting off over the P. You don't say sip, sip. We're taught in English that we should enunciate everything,
Right.
which we don't really, but we're taught it's good, diction.
Right.
Diction, I'm putting
rubber
extra
baby
T's
buggy
in.
bumpers, etc.
Yes, the rain in Spain. But we need to enunciate everything. And that's not the case in Thai, nor is it the case in actually most languages in this part of the world. You do not have this aspiration happening at the end. So if I say the number 10, it's sip.
Not sip.
No, it's not sip. Especially then, in French, what do we call it? The liaison. So et. In French, or in English, we'd say sipet. And then the P at the end would be joining into the vowel next. Sipet.
Right.
Now, confuse this with people from Isan. If you say the a, in Thai we have this vowel, sala a, and we have sala e. Sala means vowel. So a and e. In Isan, a lot of the time this a vowel becomes closer to an e. So if I wanted to say the word for and, la becomes le.
Okay.
And which means splattered, by the way, in Central Thai. And if I said the word bad, becomes bad, which gets closer. So now listen to this. If you're saying, and many of these taxi drivers and motorcycle riders are from Isan,
Yeah.
sipet, it sounds like 18. Sipet.
I can see how it'd be easy to get those
Sipet.
confused. Yeah.
Versus sipet. Sipet. You need the break in there for 11. Versus sipad. And bad needs to be long. It is short. Ad is long. Sipet. Sipad.
Right.
Sipet.
Right.
Sipad. You can hear the difference there. And so, again, it frustrates the crap out of so many people. And I told you I wanted to go to, 11. You've taken me to 18 or vice versa.
Right.
And especially if you are with people who aren't used to hearing foreigners speak, they honestly will not know what you're saying or will hear it not as what you intended. And so you really need to get your glottis working and cut it off at the end of every, at least dead syllable. So if I say the word, again, here's another one. Say thank you.
Kapun krap.
Okay. I can tell that you probably learned that in your first week in Thailand.
No, I am a Canadian, so it's the first thing we have to learn by law.
Correct. In Australia, it'd be piss off. But listen to the way you said, because I know, Greg, that you actually speak Thai and read Thai. I'll just say what you just said. Kapun krap. Now, your kop. You know in Thai we have or ang. We just covered it and you pronounced it correctly. But you said kap because kop. If I say it's the law, you say it's the law. So I say kop, you say kop. So, and then I say kop. But because you're saying thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you put these envelopes over the Thai. So khop kun kap becomes khop kun kap. You can't do that.
It has to go up.
Yeah, and you can't. It has to go up at the end. Kap if you're a guy. If you're a lady, khop kun ka.
Right.
And you cannot shorten the khop. You can't say khop. You can't say khop kun ka. It can't come out that fast. It has to be khop kun kap. Khop kun kap. Just like the Jalern has to be khop It needs to have this open mouth longer.
ขอบคุณครับ
ขอบคุณคุณครับขอบคุณครับ
And if I wanted to be particularly polite, I would say ครับ
Yeah, and which only Falang would do. But but you notice there's actually 3 tones in there. ขอบคุณครับ.
Right.
That's the sound envelope you want to get.
ขอบคุณครับ
And I'll get people, and then you might have ขอบคุณมากครับ. Thank you, thanks a lot. But I've seen a lot of foreigners learn the ขอบคุณมากครับsentence, and then they'll say ขอบคุณมากครับ. ขอบคุณมากครับ. Thanks very much. Thanks very much. ขอบคุณมากครับ. Because they're putting this sound envelope from English. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. And they're just superimposing that over the Thai words, and it ends up totally unintelligible. Now, again, given the context, I'm sure they know that you're saying thank you rather than I'm waist deep in a horse's vagina. But it's, khop kun makap. It's basically unintelligible. It's Falang language that they say when they want to give thanks. But it's not the Thai word. Khop kun makap.
I might as well be just going blah, 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 blah. And they think like, well, that jumble of sounds means thank you.
Yes, something like that.
Okay.
It's Falang thank you.
The Farang thank you.
Many foreigners don't realize that that's a thing. I guess I can't stress how important they are. When I go and I listen to people saying, and they get so frustrated because the Thais just don't want to understand me. Well, actually, it comes down to tones, the throat, and then getting the vowels right.
I would love to have heard that sometimes. It might have sort of kicked me towards being more serious of learning if every time I said thank you, someone said, what is that? And then they said, well, it's a Farang thank you because it sure as hell isn't Thai.
Yeah, which brings me back to, so, my main work is I go into companies for the past 25 years and people spill their guts to me.
Right.
And I sit and listen, and actually I can touch type in Thai pretty much on par with them speaking. Or normally, though, if they're speaking in Thai, I'll be touch typing in English. So basically simultaneous interpreting into my fingers.
That's badass. That's not easy to do.
Yeah, you get into the zone. And so as people are telling me this, and then I can aggregate all of the stuff there as they're talking to me. And then I'll put it back and I'll run training. A lot of the time, or we'll go through and we will see what's actually going on and try and bring it together, usually anonymously because we don't want to burn people. But what happened in the past, in my early days of doing this, I was originally a Dale Carnegie trainer. We would have all of these papa. Pa means auntie. So, 40 to 50 something Thai ladies who were also trainers, and they were listening, giggling hysterically in the back of the room every time I got in front of a room full of, people, class of clients, employees. And as we were coming home in the van, we might go down to Hemarat in Rayong or anywhere across Thailand, and we'd be driving back, and they would give me a full account of all of the things that I actually said, not what I thought I said. And this comes because of what we call kham puan. So kham puan there's a word in English, but basically you reverse the words around. So it kind of like Cockney rhyming slang meets Pig Latin.
Okay. Jeez. Okay.
So, for example, the word for poop is ki. That's a normal everyday word. The polite word is uchala. All right. So you have uchala that's the very polite word to say to do a poo. Ki is basically anything like poopy or whatever. It's the colloquial word for it.
Yeah.
And then if you want to say you've got diarrhea, the proper word would be tong sia. Tong is stomach, sia to be broken or not in the right state. So tong sia. But Thais in everyday language will say ki tak.
Ki tak, yeah.
Poop has splattered. Ki tak. Okay? Splatty poop. But that sounds a bit crass. And so what you do is you take the first ki tak. So we've got a k and a t, right?
Ki tak.
And you just swap the second part of each syllable around. So ki tak, the tone as well as the vowel and the ending becomes kak ti, which kind of sounds like slap the Indian.
Oh, Jesus.
So if you're saying basically I'm going to slap the Indian, it means I've got diarrhea. So if you're with a bunch of people and you say, oh, ขอโทษนะกินไม่ได้ cacti. Sorry, I can't eat cacti. Sorry, I can't eat. I got to slap the Indian. Okay, ti. It literally means I've got diarrhea. I've got a bad stomach.
That's funny. Oh, man.
So, but that's tame. Now, you can imagine, and I tell you, your average Thai, once you're sitting there and a few drinks have gone down, you're eating, it goes into the klong faster than a group of Aussies.
Yeah.
And you basically need to avoid anything with a h in it, anything with the e vowel, anything with a p in it, and there are all of the, and anything with an r in it. But basically all of these, anything with a oi in it. By the way, okay, here's one. Can you say the word for buffalo?
Kwai.
Okay. Can you say the word to chat?
Kui.
Okay. Yours isn't bad.
Phew.
A lot of foreigners, you have kwai, you have kui. Notice you've got this u there. But then you have one in between, which you spell ko wa yo, but it's the same vowel as, let me just say the word for beautiful, suai. So if you put this oi, get it mixed up with ui, you are saying male genitalia, which basically sounds like the C word in English.
Really?
And so a lot of time, if you say the word, for example, I want to chat with you, a lot of foreigners might say, I want to male genitalia with you.
No,
they
but wait.
pronounce kui.
As somewhat of a specialist in cursing and blue language, do you mean male genitalia? There's a lot of stratification there too. I mean, you could say balls, or you could say like veiny dick. Like there's a big difference between the impact of that language. So
Okay, so for example, you know what? I don't want to say it on air here because I know this is the main thing. So if you say the C word in English, you know that shock factor that you get if you're not Australian?
Yes.
Only if you're not Australian. If you're Australian, that's how you greet your mother. But if you're not Australian, there's a certain shock factor that comes with the C word.
Right.
That's the shock factor that will come with the ko word, ko wa yo, meaning penis, but it sounds as shocking as the C word is in English.
I'm going to try and say it because to me it's just a jumble of words. It's kui.
And it's really bad when New Yorkers come and they try and say the name of that particular fish. Koi. I want some coffee. Yeah.
I want some koi.
And I want to eat. What kind of fish do you like? I like eating koi. That to a Thai's ear is the word that we're not wanting to say, but we've just said it several times.
That's funny.
Again, ขอโทษนะครับ ไม่ได้ตั้งใจนิดนึง So yeah, you really have to avoid these things. So coming back to these kham puan, you will hear many Thais, they'll say something that seems quite innocent, but they will actually have these deeper meanings, which are really bad, like that go into that. So basically, if you ever hear e or oi in something that sounds kind of innocent, but not making fully sense, there's a good chance that they're taking the piss using kham puan with you.
Right. Well, speaking of the E, I distinctly remember one time I was talking with a girl I was seeing, and we were chatting, and I typed out a sort of a dirty joke, I guess, and back and forth, and then I wanted to indicate that I was laughing, so I typed TEE space HEE, tee, and she got really mad at me, and I didn't understand it, and she said that sounds like something really bad in Thai, and I left it at that. But I imagine that
it means T and then that, which literally means at the vagina. Or it could mean hit the vagina. But it brings me, there's so many kham puan. So you could say si han, which literally means shaky vagina.
Shaky vagina.
Well, if I say han and si, si, rising tone so, and so then I flip it over so it becomes and then san means to shake. So si han. Any Thai in 2 seconds. And another one is like Thais will say to a lot of Falang, this is a very popular one, can you see the bears? So how do you say see bears in Thai?
Hen ma.
Or let's see the dog.
Oh, sorry. Hen mi. Yeah.
Yeah, and which I know that Thais are probably laughing in hysterics now because if you puan that around, it becomes smelly vagina. Because the word men means smelly.
Yeah, well, I got a crash course in this years ago when I stepped on a sea urchin and I hobbled up to the medic on Kosamet and I said I stepped on a and I knew the word and I said hoi men. And he started laughing. And I'm like, dude, I'm bleeding here. But I didn't. Sea urchin, literal translation from what I understand it is like sea porcupine. But I said smelly vagina. I stepped in a smelly vagina.
You didn't even have to puan it to get that one.
Yeah.
But those kham puan, once your Thai gets to a level where you're speaking in normal Thai context or at dinner parties or whatever, well, then it's no holds barred and those things will be applied to your language as well. So you need to be on point when you're doing it.
Yeah.
One interesting thing you mentioned again, this is a thing that learners need or non-native speakers need to be aware of too. There are certain patterns in Thai. So for example, there's this rhyming language. So if I wanted to say trees, ton mai, right? There's this, it's almost a pattern that native speakers will have since childhood. So I just went and bought a bunch of trees. So ton mung ton mai, ton mung ton mai. It's like nonsense language, but it means a bunch of trees. Ton mung ton mai. Mung is another word, but it's this rhyming stuff. And what happens is that a lot of foreigners come in learning Thai and they kind of get used to using some of these patterns, but then they'll apply it in really bad ways. So for example, one of the other trainers who was not a native speaker of Thai years ago said, there are no problems. The word for problem, banha. So, ไม่มีปัญหา, there are no problems. But he used this same kind of rhyming slang, ไม่มีปัญหาอะไรเลย. And everyone would just turn white. Basically, again, we have that word again. There are no vaginas in this room, or no. So, and by it's basically like dropping the C word in English when you say it with a bunch of like executive Thais.
Oh yeah, no.
They didn't know whether to laugh or just. It was very awkward.
Jump out the window.
And he thought that he was, because he thought he was speaking fluent Thai using these. I guess, what would you call it? Like onomatopoeia, I guess. Onomatopoeia is more like sounds that sound like the thing, like clack, click, clack. But these are these rhyming patterns that any Thai would use, like kasip kasap kan. Like they were whispering to each other. It's almost like onomatopoeia, but it's rhyming patterns that happen all the time through Thai. But you need to get them through real exposure and don't attempt to use it on words that you haven't tried out yet, because you may be saying something obscene.
Especially with that long E that you said. We got to be careful when we're using those long E words.
Yeah, and it's not just that word. Like, for example, and again, they're playing with English as well. So in Isan, okay, the word, another E word, if you put ba, E, B, meaning year, but with a falling tone.
B.
Right? It's like saying the F word in English.
Really?
Okay. So, and then in Isan, to say that same word with an S is the same meaning.
C.
So, yes. I'm glad you're saying these and I don't have to.
To me, if you're a Thai speaker and you're hearing this, or a Thai person, that means nothing to me. So technically I'm not swearing, I guess.
So if you were saying, in what year, BLA, what year?
BLI.
But if you said that with a falling tone over the first word,
BLI.
that means what would you like to food?
Man, it's just a minefield.
Or so a fun one that they have when speaking English then, long time no see, right? But right. Thais can't say time because you can't have a diphthong. I followed by a consonant. So you can't say time. You can either say long time, like YY, or long time.
Long time no see.
Long time. And then no see means basically it's been a long time. You can try it, no see, but you're not going to get food.
Oh man.
Like this gets into the playful area, but you can usually tell somebody's wit or level of sense of humor in Thai to see how fast they can puan their words.
How does wordplay in Thai compare to wordplay in English? Is it similarly vibrant, funny, dirty, creative, or more so?
They leave Monty Python for dead.
Really?
It is crazy because everything is in this. Like I had to become a black belt in pawning my words and getting all of this. There's even a whole book series called Talung, where they've got all of these things and you can actually get into it. But you listen to Thai stand-up comedians and it's hilarious, but everything is play on words. And this is why it's so important to get not just the tones, but the vowels and the throat and the consonant, this aspiration. You know, say ta versus da, you need to have your tongue right, because when you're getting into that normal speaking level with Thais out of the Falang learning Thai level, well, then this is just normal conversation.
Right. Man, it's just, you know, an old joke, which I still maintain is probably partly true, is that the Thai language as it developed was probably made specifically to trip up foreigners, to retain sort of that little barrier around it, so that no matter how hard we try, we're going to sound like fools at some point as we try to learn.
Yeah, but you know, like it's through exposure and it's not impossible. Like a lot of people just think, oh, too hard, and they end up giving up. But look at it as a challenge. And once you've done it, is this whole world. Like I couldn't imagine. My daughter came over. She moved back from Australia here to Bangkok, and she went to a house party of a friend who's in the expat circle. Lived here all his life. He's 18 years old. Doesn't speak a word of Thai.
Wow.
And all of the people in their community, basically one person in that whole room who'd grown up here all their life, doesn't speak Thai. And she said, how do these people know what's going on around them? Well, living in Bangkok, because, you know, my daughter speaks Thai.
Yeah.
And I said, well, they just don't. They think they do, or maybe they think they've got a secretary or a HR director that can interpret for them. But the reality of what's really going on around them is it's a totally different world. And that's actually where my business has grown around this concept over the past 25 years, because basically telling the Westerners what's actually going on the ground as opposed to what they think. Many Thais will actually want to tell you straight to your face what the issue is. But they want to tell you, but they won't say it straight to your face, but saying it to another person, even though they know it's coming from them, but via me as a third party, they just let it rip.
You're right.
And they let you know, but you would never know if you didn't speak Thai.
Yeah, you and I were just talking about this quickly before we started recording, and this is how I'm pitching Thai to my son, who speaks fluent English, and his Thai is not very good right now. He's only 7. But I'm telling him that this afternoon, I was saying, look, buddy, like, learning Thai is like a superpower. Like, you don't want to be like me. You don't want to be, like, cut off from the signs and the books and the conversations around you and the gossip. Like, imagine speaking Thai and being able to understand everyone around you in Thai or English. I said, it's like having a superpower, and you really need to do it. It's really important, and it'll make your life so much easier. Of course, using myself as an example of a failure in that regard. Like, you don't want to be like me, right? But it's
totally true. And there's something that comes with speaking a language. No matter what people say, oh, language is just a means of communication. How you speak that language is going to have very different results. So if you're, for example, a Thai, you speak Tinglish, well then, even though we know that it's not politically correct to make certain assumptions or stereotypes, people are going to assume depth of knowledge.
Yeah.
Maybe in the spheres of native English speakers, for this person, things will be limited to you. But if you've got this natural rhythm, well, then people speak to you a different way and have different perceptions of who you are. If you came and spoke to me just as you do speak to me in your English, I wouldn't say, "Oh, Greg, you speak so well." I just think, okay, this guy, he's a native English speaker. Let's just talk and bypass we wouldn't even think to have any foreigner talk.
Right.
And for me, that's my goal in any language, whether I'm speaking, Chinese or Indonesian or Thai or whatever. I want to get to a point where we can get past the whole foreigner stuff and get to the heart of the people. And I learn dialects, whether it's in Indonesian or Thai. I'll learn Southern, Northern, Northeastern. Or if I know that I'm traveling to a place, I was in Ho Chi Minh the other day, and so I'll try and learn the variety of the language that the locals speak there. Yeah. Again, to try and bypass the foreign a bit, and you get a whole new set of experiences. So It's really, really worth learning well, and it's not impossible, but you just have to train your ears, train your mouth. And I think I mentioned that, and I didn't mean it. Apologies to Ed also for he said that what's the word, clipped him or something on a clip with and I learned that as a new term, but I didn't mean it as a bad thing. But it's like the importance of tuning in your ears, because like, for example, saying the word khun, if you say khun, we can't use this ooh, and you're hearing it every day as khun. If you can learn to actually, there's superpower in hearing something and being able to render it faithfully outside of your own mother tongue sound system. Mm-hmm. So even if I say spoon, when I hear the word khun, I'm not saying kun, I'm saying khun.
Right.
That alone is a superpower, and it will have night and day influence on the way that you speak Thai or whatever language it is that you're learning.
Right, totally. Well, as we're wrapping up now, speaking of, where can people learn the Stu Ja Raj method of the superpower?
Well, my Cracking Thai Fundamentals stuff has been around for years, and now my Mindcraft program. So we got like over 70 people come through over the past year at jacademy.com. That's JCADEMY.com, because my name's Jay. So jacademy.com. But Mindcraft basically trains your brain to think. And you learn data skills. It's because it's not just about learning the language. It's about retraining the operating system that you're learning language under. So that I put Minecraft. Minecraft is almost the prequel to Cracking Thai Fundamentals. So many people have the Cracking Thai Fundamentals book. If you're in Thailand, you can get it through that site. Otherwise, Amazon. But Minecraft is the prequel to basically prepare your mind, prepare your brain, and give you all of these fundamental skills in listening and articulation. So then actually by, say, week 5, people just start learning script in an afternoon for fun. So some of them, I learned Khmer this afternoon, or I learned Burmese this afternoon, because they're actually running on the same engine. Once you get one, the rest are actually pretty easy. And believe it or not, Chinese, Vietnamese, Burmese all run on the same tonal system when it gets down to it.
Wow.
But politics say that they're different languages and this and that, and people want to feel special that theirs is different. But actually, it's all this one system. And once you learn it, you can learn Isan in 5 to 10 minutes. You can start pronouncing Isan perfectly, but you need to know how to use the instrument of your voice and your ears.
Yeah, of course. And that pathway between them, of course, takes practice to develop that. But J Academy and in your materials, you just practice about how to develop that and how to refine it and how to use it.
Could I just say too, this guy, David Martin, he's in one of the Thai groups. He's collated over 5,000 Thai sentences from real life. It's the most amazing, amazing repository of real life Thai language I've ever stumbled across.
Really?
So I thought it would be a sin not to do this, because he was just using it for maybe space repetition or anything. So you can go on YouTube and you can check out a bunch of stuff that I've put out there for free. I call it Cracking Thai in 10. So I'll put the first 3 out there on YouTube and the rest are in J Academy. But I go into what we've been talking about here, not only just reproducing them, but understanding the software behind the operating system running behind the nuance, because it's amazing. In 5,000 sentences, and I wrote an algorithm that just basically picks random 10 out of 5,000. You would be amazed, even in 10 sentences, how much repetition there is. So you don't need a lot of vocab, but you got to know how this vocab is used. And so even in 10 sentences out of 5,000, 3 sentences might have repetitive vocab, which is just basic vocab, but it's the context and how they actually use it. So I've been putting these together because it'd be a sin not to do it with this wonderful resource that David's put together. because I think that people just reading these sentences or, playing them back don't actually appreciate the depth and the beauty of how you can express something so deep in a handful of words in Thai.
Amazing.
So that's out there on YouTube there as well. Check it out.
We'll link to that in our show notes as well.
Yeah.
All right, Stu, I know you're busy. I don't want to keep you any longer. Thank you so much, man. It's always great to come on. Every time you come on the show, I always learn to look at things a slightly different way, and it's great. It's really educational. And once we've done this show now with a little bit of dirty words and blue humor in it, maybe the next time we can go full R, full X rated, and have just a show that would be completely inappropriate for any audience, which of course would probably be our most downloaded episode. But we'll see where we get to.
I'm in.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Not up to my waist.
Thanks a lot, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Greg. Bye.
Man, I really like that. This language is just so unpredictable. It's like the misunderstandings, the alternate meanings. It's like you never would guess what the alternate meaning is. Like it's just so odd.
Yeah, English has its fair share, and it's, of course, you would expect every language has its own little fair share of wordplay, but Thai's is just, they seem to sort of take particular delight into making it a little bit dirty, a little bit nasty, a little bit like,
that's right.
And it's so funny.
But it just seems like good words are in close proximity to bad words. It's like they're right next to each other. Like
right.
They're like one tone away, or like one, if you say this with a long vowel, now you're being obscene.
Right.
And it's like right next to the good word.
Yeah,
right?
It's like, I wanted to say banana, but instead I said
right.
Pencil. No, it's like I wanted to say banana, but instead I cursed out the whole delegation, and now I'm in jail or something.
I mean, in a way, Stu is he's kind of frightening, because it's like he's really pointing out like all these truths about the Thai language, where it's like in most cases we're ignorant. We don't even realize like the absurd things we're saying.
Exactly.
And he's pointing it out, like all the mistakes we're making. Right.
Yeah. No kidding. And that's a really interesting point too, because like, a lot of times with language, ignorance is bliss. You just see the surface, but if you know what's underneath, you're like, damn, this is a little bit frightening to understand the complexities.
And there's Stu going like, do you realize what you just said?
Hey, how you doing? And in his mind, he's thinking like, wow, you're an idiot. Do you know? How obtuse you're being right now. Anyway, it was always fun to chat with Stu. So Stu, thanks for coming on, man. That was a great 2-episode experience. And we promise the next time you come on the show, we'll talk about something less obscene and probably.
Yeah, we got a plan. I already have a plan for Stu's next show. I discussed with him. He's going to give me a Thai lesson. So he has agreed to listen to some of my spoken Thai, which is not good. And then we have agreed he's going to just fix my Thai and like in front of an audience. So
wow,
that's the next one. We don't know when that's going to happen, but it will happen.
Good on you, man. That's ballsy.
I am. What can I say? Like I need help.
Right on. That's cool. Well, thanks, Stu. We appreciate it, and we'll talk to you soon. All right, so one of the new segments we want to try in this new season is something that we called Would You Rather, where one of us picks 2 contrasting situations tied to Thailand to debate and choose which one we'd prefer. And Ed, this week it's all about you.
All right, dude. Both you and I love our Western food that we grew up on, but we also like Thai food. I think in general, there's certain things we don't like. You and I are not fish sauce guys, but in general, you would say you like Thai food, right?
Yeah, that's an understatement. Yeah,
definitely. I love it too. But here's the question, and of course this is a fantasy, but whatever. That we're allowed to do this.
Yeah.
Imagine if you basically had to pick 3 dishes, and they were the only things you could eat the rest of your life. Like you had a 3-dish menu.
All right, I'm down with that. Yeah.
Would you rather choose as your last 3 dishes you ever ate 3 Western dishes or 3 Thai dishes?
Damn.
Like, would you go with like pizza and a burger and a steak for the rest of my life, or would you go like khao soy, tonka? What would it be, Mr. Greg?
Wow,
how Thai have you become? That's the question.
This is really hard, man. I'm thinking, God, I gotta say, and this is a bit blasphemic. I gotta say, Western dishes.
Okay, well, that's how you grew up. I don't think that's too bad. I don't think anyone's gonna like chase you down and like stab you in the heart with a steak.
It's because if I go like all Thai food for a long time, I'm craving a burger. Or I'm craving pizza. But if I go all Western food, I miss khao soi. I miss lap mu, but I don't.
Right.
I don't have that same craving that I grew up with. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah, I tell you, I mean, from my experiences dieting and doing my whole veggie plant-based experiment and talking to a lot of my friends, what you grow up with and what you're used to and what your palate likes, that's very difficult to change, man. Like even if you're dedicated, if you've been eating something for 20 years, especially when you were a kid, it's pretty hard to change that.
Right.
So I kind of asked this question because I think for me it's tricky. And I got to be honest. I think I would go Thai only because I think that the veggie Thai dishes would be more interesting and tasteful. You know, so like there's a lot of veggie Western food I like, but it's not all that exciting. You know, so for me, obviously I can have like a Beyond Burger, which I like, or
Right.
so there's all kinds of good veggie Western food. But the Thai stuff is just so much more. It has so much more flavor.
Interesting.
So when I compare, I mean, this is why I like Thai food. It's the whole thing that we've talked about before. It's like it's sweet, it's sour, it's tangy, it's spicy. It's like Thai dishes are just more complex.
Right.
And if I'm like I could only eat 3 things for the rest of my life, and they either had to be all Thai or all Western, I think I'd go Thai, man.
Interesting. So because of that
The flavor,
dietary
the complexity.
limitation you have, you would counter that by having the spicier variety in Thai food.
I think so. Like if I was back to my old ways of eating everything, my favorite food I've ever had in my whole life is just grilled salmon. It's like period. It's the best thing I've ever eaten in my life. And so that would be hard. If I was eating everything, it would be hard for me to turn my back on like grilled salmon. If that was, So, but if I can't eat fish and I can't eat meat, it's not that I don't like veggie food. I like it. But I think I like, if I had to choose, if I had to be restricted, I think I probably like veggie Thai food better.
Interesting.
Just because of the flavor, the complexity of the flavor, man.
Right.
And this is why I like Thai food. I mean, that's why everyone likes Thai food, is that they're very good at combining and balancing different flavors. Like this is why I like tom yum.
Right.
Like, tom yum is sweet and sour soup. And of course, it's also spicy,
Yeah, interesting question. That's a good one. I would crawl over broken glass for a plate of lap mu and sticky rice, but man, just sinking my teeth into a hamburger, that'll never get old. That's something I need.
You are Canadian.
That's right. Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, cool. So, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, we'd like to say thank you to Ray for lending us his support at the show shoutout level. And Greg, what did you find out about Ray?
Well, I had a couple of quick conversations with our buddy Ray, and it turns out his hobby is the one thing that's been basically impossible for the past few years, and that is world travel.
Wow.
Yeah, so he got kind of a raw deal there, I think. But Ray wrote me a letter, and he said, I miss Thailand, and your podcast made me feel connected. My hobby is world travel. The last 2 years have been really hard. One of my favorite things to try is Peruvian food in other countries.
Wow.
It is a small community, so it is an instant connection when traveling. He says, Bangkok is lucky to have one of the best Peruvian restaurants I have ever tried. Can you think of what it is?
I do not know it. I don't know it.
I knew this because I remember hearing it when I was there years ago and thinking, oh, that's weird. I've never heard that before. It's above 11 on Sukhumvit Soy 11.
Okay. I didn't know that. I did not know that.
It says the chef is from Peru, and I could tell when I tasted the food. You guys should check it out. So I don't know much about Peruvian food, so I looked up what are some like famous Peruvian food, and the first one, of course, is ceviche.
Okay. I've heard of it. Don't know what it is really, but I've heard of it.
It's fish, lime, salt, juice, onion, and hot chilies. Sounds pretty good.
Gotcha.
There's stir-fried beef. There's creamy chicken. And there's potatoes and spicy cheese sauce. This is sounding like a pretty good cuisine I can get behind.
It does. Sounds pretty good.
And check this out. Also, guinea pig.
Guinea pig. Okay. I did not know that, and that's not too enticing. Gotta be honest.
This little thing, it says one of the Andean region's most popular sources of meat is guinea pig. It strikes fear in the hearts of Westerners who think it's more of a pet than a meal. But consider tender, smoky, dark meat beneath a glistening golden veneer of shatteringly crisp skin. I'm on board, man.
They do make it sound pretty good. I gotta be honest.
Yeah. So I think, Ed, you and I need to take Ray's advice here as our food muse. We need to go and have a meal at above 11. There's got to be some good vegetarian food there.
I sure hope. I'm not really up on Peruvian vegetarian cuisine, but I'm open to checking it out.
All right, you have the spicy cheese and potatoes, and I'll have the guinea pig.
There you go. All right.
Cool,
Thanks a
yeah.
lot, Ray.
Yeah, thanks, Ray. We'll check it out. We'll let you know, and let us know when you're back in town on your world travels, and maybe you can show us around the guinea pig roaster.
Cool. All right. A final thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping support the show. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
Yeah, man. You can also listen to each episode on YouTube. You'll send us a voicemail through the website that we'll feature on the show, or even reach out to me directly on Twitter, where I'm BKK Greg. So thanks for listening, folks, and we will see you next week on the internets, and we will see you in a few weeks in person on September 10th.
Absolutely.
Maybe Evil Knievel out there on his motorcycle will be enough to do the sound test, because he sure isn't throttling down. That's one thing I did love about Singapore, man. Just no loud motorbikes.
I'm sure.
Even the big bikes that drove by you were just like, so nice. Some dickhead on a crotch rock. Meh.